It was nearly Christmas. Annie and Clarabelle were packed full of people and parcels. Thomas was having a really hard work. The coaches grumbled, "We're feeling so full, we're feeling so full." Thomas looked at the little ahead. Ahead was an old cottage. Suddenly, she saw a hand waving from a cottage window. He felt better at once, and gave a nice peep peep. But when they reached the nearest station, his driver talked to him. "That was Mrs. Kindley you waved to. She has to stay in bed all day because she's sick." "I'm sorry," moaned Thomas. Meanwhile, on the other hand, Toby was having a wonderful time. But regardless, Thomas and Toby were having hard work, no matter what the weather. Especially when it began to rain. It rained for days, weeks, months, and years. Thomas felt very miserable. Poor Thomas was so sad he nearly cried. But whether they waved or not, they would whistle past the old cottage. Finally, the next day, the sun shone, and the birds sang. Thomas was very happy. The guard blew his whistle, and with happiness, Thomas puffed off. Come along, he puffed. But he wasn't having a good time for long. Just then, a landslide just blocked his way. Thomas was very surprised. The driver applied the brakes, just in time. But on the other hand, Mrs. Kindley was waving a red flag. Thomas knew what it meant. He stopped just in time. "Oh!" they cried. The guard came up to Thomas's cab to see if there was a doctor on the train and asked him to go to the cottage. The doctor visited the cottage with Mrs. Kindley. "It's the doctor!" cried Mrs. Kindley. "I'm very surprised." "Well, you saved everyone from a nasty accident. There were a landslide in the cutting of your cottage, and we're here to give you our rewards." "Thank you," said Mrs. Kindley. "God bless you, ma'am." By Christmas Day, Thomas and Toby were puffing through the wonderful snowy countryside. "Happy Christmas," they said. So the Fat Controller was impressed. Everyone climbed to the cottage to thank her. So Topham Hatt came to say thank you to Mrs. Kindley too. "They're lovely presents," Mrs. Kindley said. I can nearly cry." Mrs. Kindley is now getting better every day. Thomas and Toby were very impressed. By January, it started to snow. But in the winter, Mrs. Kindley got all better. Thomas was very impressed.